Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Enjoying our second day here at Southwestern College. And we're going to kick it off with agenda item 2.9, which we had to skip over yesterday, that has the most exciting title on the entire agenda, Operating Procedures Amendments. And Deputy Chancellor Marc Laforestier will explain.
Morning, President, Vice President, Chancellor. So this, the Office of General Counsel was asked to revise the policies and procedures governing board compensation and travel expenses. This is in part in anticipation of a new board budget being presented to the board next month. And the idea was to take an approach that would provide additional clarity to what constitutes official board business, and to provide some priorities over the kinds of business that the board conducts, and to make the policy a little less bureaucratic. So what I'd like to do first is just describe the principal approach to expenses and per diem taken under the current provision, which is in Section 5. So it defines as official business regular, special meetings of the board, committee meetings, and task forces. And for that official business, no board president approval is required, but the per diem and travel expenses are provided. And then there are three other categories of official business as well. One is conferences and meetings of state, regional, or national associations related to post-secondary education. The next is member visits to community colleges. And then there's a catch-all provision for other board business as approved by the president. And for all of those categories, the per diem is provided and expenses are also provided, and there's no real distinction between those kinds of business. So I'd ask you to turn to page 84 of your agenda package, and I'll walk you through some of the changes and explain the approach that we've taken to these amendments. So you'll see under subdivision 3A, and if you're wondering why this has changed from 3 to 5, there is no current section 3 or 4 in this chapter of the policies, so we're just renumbering. So subdivision A provides the sort of the highest priority of board work and would provide the per diem and expenses for attendance at regular and special and committee meetings of the board, which is the same as what we've had in the past. And then participation in group meetings of the Chancellor's office. That's a new provision. It would have been authorized in the past in all likelihood, but is just provided there for more specificity. And then the third provision is a limitation on major conferences. So under that category, per diem and expenses would be provided, but there is no requirement of prior presidential approval. So we're trying to streamline and provide some specificity. Then subdivision B is different from subdivision A in that no per diem would be provided, but travel expenses would be. And this would be for representation of the board before government entities and visits to community college campuses, which are the first provision, Romanet 1, the representation before governmental entities is not specified previously, but is now, and the second provision is nothing new. Subdivision C would relate specifically to faculty members of the board and provide that if they are participating in what would be faculty work, then the reimbursement should come from the community college district, not from the Board of Governors. And then subdivision D is the catch-all provision that provides for presidential approval of per diem and expenses for other work that a board member seeks approval for. This does require prior notification and approval of the president. And this section also provides some parameters for what the board president should consider in providing discretionary expenses. So it would be the availability of funds in the budget, the role of the member in the event, the time commitment required, and the importance of the activity to the vision for success. And then subdivision E is basically a repetition of what's in the existing policy. This is the times when it's appropriate to exceed the ordinary state limitations on reimbursement rates. The only addition is in Romanet 4, which adds situations where reasonable accommodation is required, and that's just an update consistent with current state law. And then F is the documentation requirements. The provision requiring that reimbursement be sought within 60 days, that's a new requirement. And the requirement for approval of the governor for out-of-state travel, that's not new. I will note that that requirement is repeated in 2 places in the provision. We will strike out one of those when we go to the final version. So that's the summary of the approach. Any questions?
Member Fahn.
May I thank you? I truly appreciate you taking the initiative and working with our new president of the board to clarify and provide specificity on our activities here on the board, because it's much, much appreciated. We've been operating on, okay, this thing comes up, should I ask for permission, and should I go or not go? And so this really clarifies it. But on subdivision C, if I may, very minor, but I want to clarify this point. Is it assumed that the participation by the faculty board member on the activities highlighted in A and B are not the normal responsibility of the faculty board member, and that if it's part of our normal responsibility, that's where we inform you so that we don't get travel expenses and reimbursed and per diem. Is that correct?
I think that's right. I think if there are issues where there's ambiguity between whether what you want to do is a faculty responsibility or a board responsibility, or maybe it's in a gray zone in between, then I think that's a time for you to have a conversation with the president and sort out what would be an appropriate approach.
Great, because I want to highlight that, and I don't want future faculty board members to have to explain or defend that. Oh, as a faculty member, I never am asked or requested to go to the league conference, to go to the plenary session. But as a BOC member, I'm going in the role of a BOC member. So I don't want future, like I said, faculty board members to have to defend or offend or make a case for that. I just want to clarify that.
I would say in general that we would rely on the self-reporting of the faculty member, and it applies to staff too, as well as faculty, not just faculty. But we would trust that you know what your schedule was before you were a board member, and if you went to that event before, then that would continue to be as part of your faculty responsibility. But if it's something new that you got invited to because you're a member of the board, then that would qualify.
Thank you.
Member Baum?
No, thank you. This is very helpful. We haven't had as clear a set of guidelines as in the past. And I think it's really important that we integrate this into some kind of board orientation, because I think we've been lax on helping orient new board members to the procedures and the responsibilities. Lastly, the question that I had was the source of funding for this as well, at board expenses, because for a while, it seemed a little nebulous that the board operations were somewhat supported by the foundation, too, in a grant to the Chancellor's office that was never formally kind of structured as a board budget. And I expect we'll get into a system where the operation of the board is actually a regularly budgeted item as opposed to kind of a portion of whatever the foundation contributes to operate support the Chancellor's office.
Right, and that will be the topic of conversation next month when the board budget comes before you for approval.
And then okay, and we'll talk about it next month because it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see.
Any other? Okay, then I think we need a motion to adopt
I'll move to approve.
Member Rollins.
I second that.
On.
No public comment on this.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you,
Thank you.
You can stay right there, Mark.
Mark.
You're next.
Oh, am I? Okay.
Okay, so we are now going to have a first reading of a proposed amendment to the procedures of the board. And I'm supposed to bang the gavel and read a script, which I don't have.
No, this isn't a regulation. You don't need the script.
I don't need the script, thank you. So all I need to say is that we're open for public comment.
Well, let me just talk about what we're
Okay.
doing here first.
Okay.
So there are a number of standing committees of the board that are basically moribund. They have not been used for a number of years. And so the purpose of this is to provide notice of a change to these procedures that will actually be the subject of a motion and resolution at our next board meeting. So this is just notice. And the proposal is to eliminate the 6 standing committees that are listed in the package and reduce the standing committees of the board to an executive committee and a technology committee. And then we've also made some additional changes that would address the composition of the executive committee. We're eliminating a reference to the CPEC representative and providing that the executive committee would be comprised of the president, the vice president, and the immediate past president, unless we're in a situation like we are right now, where we don't have an immediate past president, and in that situation, the president of the board would have authority to appoint a third member to the executive committee from the members of the board. So that's what this process does. And all we're providing today is notice of our intention to make that amendment, and we will make that at our next meeting. Any questions?
Member Anderson.
What boards are being abolished?
So they're listed on page 95 of your package. So it's the Committee on Budget and Finance, the Committee on Legislation, the Joint Advisory Committee on Career Technical Education, the CSU Doctoral Program Joint Standing Committee, Foundation for California Community Colleges Committee, the Veterans Committee, Economic and Workforce Development, and the Program Advisory Committee. And they're being abolished because they have not been in use in anyone's memory, from what I can tell.
Several of these committees were established when either a new initiative came up, like the CSU Educational Doctorate Committee, things like that, and they just haven't been staffed, certainly in recent memory. And I think in order for us, this doesn't prevent the board to create new standing committees going forward. You're creating a technology committee, you're creating other committees as you move forward. But this cleans up some of the old standing committees that have been on the books for many, many, many years.
I have a question.
Member Shaw?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Chancellor, do you think that, are these the only 2 committees you think are appropriate? Can you think of the creation of any other committees? Number 1. And number 2 is I think that the executive committee number is rather small for a 17-member board. Wouldn't you want to, if somebody's absent, you only have 2 people on executive committee?
So, to your first question, I mean, it is up to the board to determine, what standing committees it feels it needs. I think we haven't had any operating standing committees. We want to begin the operation of standing committees. So we're beginning with the ones that have been appointed by the board president. As far as the executive committee, I think it depends on the board's chair's perspective of how many people it needs to conduct business. The executive committee really, at this point, operates primarily for actions of the Board of Trustees of the online college, or if there's a need to conduct special business in between board meetings. It hasn't been used in the past. It is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but we're primarily standing it up because of the need for the business for the Board of Trustees for the online college.
This is a different executive committee.
Okay, different thing.
Yeah, let me address this. I don't anticipate having to call executive committee meetings very often. You know, the only time I could see is if there's some emergency item that comes up in between board meetings where I don't feel comfortable deciding it myself. So I think it would be a pretty rare occurrence, and I think if you're going to do something quickly on an emergency basis, I think probably a smaller committee is better than a larger committee. But I'm certainly open to making it larger. My feeling about committees in general is it's a lot of work for the staff to staff another committee, and I know they're pretty stretched right now. And so I think we've talked about it. I think there's been a sense of a need for a technology committee here because of all the technology projects, and so that's why we're creating that one. But I'm certainly open to any board member who thinks we ought to have more committees or a larger executive committee, and happy to consider that. Member Rawlings.
So partly a question for you, Mr. President, and also for council, is at the point we have an executive committee, say we had an issue like Umoja come up, would we be able as a board to delegate authority to the executive committee to engage in approving a contract for something like Umoja for being the fiscal agent in between board meetings? Could we delegate that kind of authority?
So we could do, depending on how we draft the charge of the executive committee, we could do that. But the president has, under emergency circumstances, he does have the authority to approve contracts and then report them later to the Board of Governors. So that authority already exists in the president.
Great. That's good to know. Thank you.
Member Fawn.
You want to cover?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I applaud and appreciate the effort to clean some of these committees up, and obviously the doctoral program with the CSU is kind of out of date because it's been going on for almost 10 years now. But Chancellor, you mentioned like new initiatives and therefore new committees. I think one of the major items that we have actually looked at in the past year is the new funding formula. And I just want to make sure that there's enough attention by the board given to this new formula that we will be seeing across the system. And as we heard from the president and superintendent from Cabrillo College yesterday, and I've been hearing from other CEOs throughout the state about how their campus will be $3 or $5 million in the red with the new funding formula. If I have to comment on or think of a committee that I would like to resurrect or not abolish, is the Committee on Budget and Finance. So at the very minimum, there's some attention by a few board members looking at or working or supporting the Chancellor and his staff on deliberations on how the dollars will be allocated or the new formula will work. Now, I harken back to the work that we did last year on the Vision for Success, where the Chancellor made a proposal on the Vision Success, and each of us on the board kind of gravitate toward one or two of the goals, and there's a sense of ownership, and we had an opportunity to dive deeper into each of those goals. And at the end of the day, it was the same set of goals, but at least it gave us the opportunity to dive deeply into those items. And I'm just wondering if the Committee for Budget and Finance would continue to allow us to hear from the field their concerns and trepidations on the funding formula. So to make a long story short, I would like, if I may, to see the Committee on Budget and Finance not be abolished. And we have very bright minds with respect to finance and budget sitting here on the committee that we could actually lend some attention, focus, and a set of ears, if you will, on that. So that's my suggestion.
Well, I'd be happy to respond, and I appreciate the background and the concern. I think, first of all, let me make sure and clarify, although there have been statements made that some colleges will be in the red because of the funding formula. That is absolutely not the case. There is no college that is in the red because of the funding formula. That's why we have the hold harmless. We went to great lengths to make sure that no college was in the red because of the change to the funding formula. Second, the challenge we have is, one, the board doesn't have any authority to make changes to the funding formula. That was taken away from us in statute. And while we advocated for authority for the Board of Governors, it was taken away, and now the legislature and the governor have created an oversight committee. In addition, we have Consultation Council, which we have regular updates on the funding formula where we receive input from the field. In addition, we have a technical working group focused on the actual mechanics of the implementation. I think it would be appropriate to have a regularly scheduled update to the board on the funding formula where the public can respond directly and comment directly to the entire board. And then the last thing I'd say is I realize sometimes it's difficult to think about this, but the other challenge we have with standing committees is that we have a very limited staff. 142 employees, give or take, in the entire agency. And we have literally probably 30 committees that the Chancellor's office is engaged in now, outside of the Board of Governors, that we are responsible for. So while I'm not saying that that's an excuse for not having a committee, I think I would ask the board to consider when and where it wants to have a standing committee and what actions will that standing committee be able to take relative to the authority of the Board of Governors.
Member Costa, I know, had something to say about this.
Of course, if we're going to talk budget and finance.
Yes.
I just want to highlight the point that the Chancellor made, which is that there is actually a statutory entity that Vice Chancellor Osmeña testified to yesterday that was just signed into law. And so I agree, it's a big proposal, but I think it would be duplicative of our efforts, given that there's already another membership. It's being staffed by the Chancellor's staff members. I don't know that that's a good use of our time. I agree with you that I'd like to see Budget and Finance stay maybe not as a standing committee, but a temporary committee for an entirely different purpose, which is that given the transition in governors, I think that we may be called upon to have some pretty quick decision points on our proposed budget, specifically between November and December. And so depending on how our board meetings line up, there may be some agency in having it at least temporarily to help direct staff work.
Thank you. So I just want to reiterate that these are standing committees as opposed to the ability of this body to and the president to have ad hoc, which means you're really responding to something that's immediate, that needs some attention, that needs some recommendations back to the full body. That doesn't go away, and we can, as a body, can sort of ask for that given the circumstances. The other element that we can play a role in are those committees such as AB 705, which has two members of the Board of Governors, or their consultation, which can have membership of this body. There are a number of places where we can play a role, where there are a lot of stakeholders. We can hear what those conversations are and have an understanding of what some of those issues are, and we can bring them back to this body in the work that we're doing, and will inform the work and decision-making that we're doing. So it's not, I think there's enough of opportunities, and we also have the African-American career education panel that's an advisory body. So there's just a number of them. I think that it would be helpful to know where we can play a role, where we are engaged with. It's not necessarily insular, but we're engaged with the system stakeholders. So I would just offer that up as some opportunities.
Member Villalobos.
My question to you is in regards to the Veterans Committee, and again, as a new member, I'm not extremely familiar with any impact that the Veterans Committee has had across the state with our veterans population, but I know the question is going to come up, and I am going to be asked why the committee was eliminated. So my question to you is, has the Veterans Committee had any impact across the state as it relates to veterans? And will the elimination of this committee in any way hinder any advocacy efforts for vets from the board?
So I don't know when the last time the Veterans Committee met. I believe it's been years, so I don't think there will be any impact. Have to make a contribution? Okay, we have somebody with knowledge here. Good.
Vice Chancellor Moore, thank you.
Good morning. I really don't have knowledge of the board's Veterans Committee, but we do have an advisory committee on veterans services that is outside of the board, but we can certainly invite a member of the board to be on that advisory committee. And I think that would cover your concerns.
That's perfect, yeah.
Okay, good. I'll send you the information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Baum.
Thank you. When I first joined the board, we actually did have a number of committees, and I understood the spirit in which they were formed. I served on the budget committee, and we reviewed the budget proposal and things like that. But I do want to caution, because in essence, the board acts as a committee of the whole, and it seemed like it wasn't as an effective use of time, because then we brought the material to the full board, and then everybody had their bite at the apple. It didn't really reduce the workflow. It gave some board members an opportunity for input. So I felt that we've taken on a lot. We're taking on, as a committee of the whole, the responsibility for the online college, and we've got to do those responsibilities. To add more committees or resurrect former committees, I would caution against that right now too, because the other thing is, when this system is most effective is when we're most focused on a specific number of key priorities. Committees, we had a student affairs committee and other things like that, tend to also put on the table competing priorities for the system to try to address. And so I think that the more we could keep our work focused, I understand the spirit of the committees, and I think as things come up, the president should be able to act to address them. But I would not support. I would support the streamlining and reduction of the standing committees.
Member Grande.
Thank you. I was just wondering what we consider to be the purpose or function of adding a technology committee, understanding the rationale that we have for deleting the other committees because there are work groups or other offices within the Chancellor's system that allows for it. Why we would call out the technology committee in particular?
So if I could weigh in on that one, Member Grandes. A couple of members of the board have expressed concerns about the number of technology initiatives that are either in the works, being launched, being consolidated, and there was a desire to assign a couple of the members of the board to oversee or to have a chance to to work specifically with those who are involved in the technology projects because of the cost, because of the contractual obligations that we're making with vendors, with districts. So it was a concern on the part of the board over actions that the board has direct authority over. And so that came up about 3 or 4 meetings ago. And I think that's why that was proposed.
I want to add on that Member Anderson and Member Rawlings have both expressed an interest in participating, and would certainly be open to having another person or so join that committee. If there was any interest, please let me know. Member Avalos? No? Okay. You look like you want to say something.
Thank you. You're so perceptive. So I'm listening to the arguments go back and forth regarding the Committee on Budget and Finance, and understanding that we just passed an agenda item 2.9 operating procedures, and we're promised a November budget for the Board of Governors. Wouldn't it make sense to have that as a standing committee so that we could look at our own budget and budget allocation and determine our priorities, especially in light of those operating procedures that substantiated the need for the Board of Governor members to be at particular activities or outreach?
I guess my feeling on that is that, the board budget is of interest to the entire board, and it would probably be better just to have the whole board discuss it rather than to have, kind of as Member Baum said, kind of a second bite at the apple for people. I'm not sure it would save any time or... Okay.
No
Vice
action required
Chancellor.
today.
No action
This will be
required.
back before the board in November.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now up to item 3.2. Another very exciting item, the dates of the board meetings.
Good morning, President Epstein, board members, Chancellor Oakley. We are moving into the future, the year 2020. This item summarizes the board meeting minutes for 2020. It is consistent with what this board has done in terms of picking similar dates. What we've also done is taken a close look at holidays, national and religious holidays. In terms of this notice and reading, we have not picked a location for September of 2020. We did take a look at what the board has done and where we have gone in the past. We have not been to the Central Coast, and we have also not been to the Inland Empire. So when we come back in November, we're happy to bring you some suggestions. But
Okay, and to explain, you'll see they're all 2-day meetings, and this is in part because of the online college, which now kind of forces every meeting to be a 2-day meeting. On the July one, it's only listed as 1 day. That's because when we have the Rice Awards the next morning, and so that really will be a 2-day commitment with the online college board meeting that afternoon as well.
so there's no action today, just notice. Happy to take any questions.
Certainly, if anybody sees that we've missed a religious holiday or something,
Yes.
please let us know.
We're all hoping for a very successful 2020.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item 3.3, Dr. Gonzalez.
So item 3.3 is consistent with what this board does every year. At the September board meeting, we hear an informational item on the nomination of 2019 board officers. This is consistent with your standing orders, and this item is to hear your nominations for president as well as vice president.
So we're open for nominations. Member Rawlings.
I'd like to nominate Tom Epstein for president and Pamela Haynes for
We're only
vice-
doing
one at a
president
time.
right now. One at a
Okay,
time.
so, yeah, Tom Epstein for president.
We appreciate,
I'll get you, Pam. There we go.
we appreciate your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Any, is there a second?
Okay.
Member Perry. Any other nominations for president? I believe under the rules, the nomination process is open until the next meeting. Is that correct?
That's
So
correct.
if somebody wants to nominate someone between now and then, they're welcome. Okay, with that, we'll move to the nominees for vice president. And I was going to take the privilege, if possible, to nominate Pamela Haynes to be the vice president.
I'll second.
Member Rawlings will second. Any other nominations for vice president? Okay, again, we have another 2 months to nominate someone. Otherwise, it looks like we're going to be having a Soviet-style election.
That's funny.
All right.
Thank you.
And we'll be happy with the results.
Moving on to item 4.1, the bachelor's degree program, Vice Chancellor Alice Perez.
We're actually, let's see.
4.1.
No, the
We're actually moving to 4.2. 4.2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did this one, yes.
we did that.
Oh, that we did that already, Paul?
That was
4.2.
me.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. I'm sure I was paying attention.
Probably 4.4 you're on.
Yes,
I mean,
4.4.
That's what I meant.
You
Did
were-
I say 4.4?
Yes.
Yes.
We're good.
Yes.
He was right the first time.
Good morning, Board Member President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the Board of Governors. It's my pleasure today to introduce our panel of experts and colleagues to present a very concise and succinct and energizing presentation on our bachelor's degree programs. So we front-loaded your packet with a lot of the necessary background and the infographics so that we would, in the interest of time, we could really move forward. So to my left, I'd like to introduce Frank Dawson. He's the Interim Dean of Career and Technical Education at Santa Monica College. And to his left, we would like to welcome Connie Renda. She's the Associate Director and Program Director of Health Information Management at San Diego Mesa College. I'd also like to ask Dean Jackie Escajeda to come up from our Chancellor's office. She oversees and overlooks the bachelor's degree program. She's coming in a moment. And I'd also like to acknowledge one of our really core team members, Jerry Griffin in the Chancellor's office. She's done an extraordinary amount of work. Her leadership is absolutely essential to the success of the program, so I wanted to acknowledge Jerry. I also want to thank our statewide academic senate partners. They work closely with us to implement this program and to ensure its success. And with that, we will move on. Thank you.
Good morning, Chancellor Oakley, President Epstein, Interim Vice President Haynes, members of the board, and everybody else in the room. My name is Frank Dawson. I'm Interim Dean of Education, Career Education, the rebrand at Santa Monica College, and I'd like to share with you a bit of information regarding the initial cohort of our bachelor degree program in interaction design at Santa Monica College. Interaction designers shape our interactions with technology, and our program has been preparing students with the technical skills, collaboration and leadership ability, and a design thinking mindset to become working interaction designers. From websites, apps, and wearables to self-driving cars, our students learn to use their understanding of people to create more successful experiences for everyone. As more of our lives are impacted by technology, it's increasingly more important that the people designing the technology have a diversity of background, thought, and life experiences that is inclusive and reflects our entire population. As an accessible community college, we're filling that need with talented students who might otherwise not have considered a path into a tech career, and the demand for the type of students we are preparing is very strong. There are nearly 1,000 open jobs with an average salary of $92,000 in the Los Angeles area alone. One way we have given our students a pathway into industry is through intensive collaborations with our brand new campuses, neighboring businesses, and local organizations in Silicon Beach. Design firm Very Nice, the American Heart Association, the software giant SAP, and Hulu are just a few. Through these collaborations, our students did field research to tackle food issues in South LA, reimagined the future of retail, and created interventions to foster community on our own new campus. In June, we graduated our inaugural baccalaureate degree class, and they are an incredible group. I'd like to share a few stories of what they accomplished in the program and where they're headed. Ojen Shammasian may only have the use of the fingers on her right hand, but she refuses to let that be a hindrance. A fierce advocate for accessibility and inclusion, she created Charlie, an artificially intelligent voice assistant that eliminates dependency on physical interactions and visual interfaces to make modern technology accessible to everyone. Ojen has served as an accessibility consultant on our fellow students' projects during this term. Program graduates Orhan, AJ, and Evan formed a design firm together to practice what they were learning in the program. They designed and developed the new campus and program websites, several apps, and produced the Chancellor's Office infographic for the 15 community college presentations, as well as this presentation. Since graduation, their business has grown rapidly, and they've begun to hire current students in the program to collaborate with them in their new business. During the program, Amanda Sanchez discovered she had a passion for equity, inclusion, and diversity. In her senior mentorship, she co-created Think, a series of workshops that help teams to lead with resilience, connect beyond conflict, and embed inclusion into their everyday lives. Amanda's been hired into a new design team at JP Morgan in Palo Alto based on her extraordinary work in the Interaction Design program. In closing, here's a very brief video that introduces our program faculty leader, Nicole Chan, and a few additional graduates from our program.
Interaction design is the opportunity for designers to go in and research what people really need.
This is like one of 15 colleges in California that are offering a bachelor program. Like, that's amazing, you know?
Having a bachelor degree in a community college is an opportunity.
So the fact that it's a college education, the whole staff is working so hard to make strong education that I am actually better off staying here.
This program has helped me really figure out what I want to do with my life.
Being the first cohort thinking, don't give up, because sometimes we had that feeling, and that united us.
This program made me feel very confident of myself, and I feel like a whole different person who I was before.
My family is extremely proud that I will be one of the first cohorts to graduate from this bachelor program.
It's an opportunity to engage with designers from all over Los Angeles that might not be able to go to these really fancy art schools and pay the fancy art school tuition. And I feel very grateful that I'm able to be a part of it.
We are all still very much in the early days of our program, and we can't wait to continue making an impact on the lives of our students and our community. Thank you all for this great opportunity.
Interaction design is the opportunity for designers.
Hi, my name is Connie Renda, and I am the Associate Professor and Program Director at San Diego Mesa College in the Health Information Management Bachelor's Degree Program. Our program, as I was there at the inception and was able to participate in the process for applying for one of the 15 slots for the pilot program, and our industry is health information management, and so it used to be called medical records and really required just a high school education. And now that with the advent of the electronic health record, the industry has required bachelor's degrees, a minimum of associate degrees, and heading towards bachelor's degrees for these high-level skilled positions in healthcare. There's only one other Bachelor of Science degree program in the entire state, and it is a private institution, so most of our students stopped at the associate's degree with really no pathway to the HIM profession. So one of the things that we first researched was the job outlook, and the Bureau of Labor and Statistics projected a 13% growth. EDD projected almost a 20% increase in jobs, and then ONET about a 15% growth. So looking at those and knowing what the salaries were for these high-level leadership and management positions, we went forward with this particular degree. In developing the curriculum, we researched all other accredited programs. We have an external accreditation affiliated with our national association, professional association. And so when we looked at these other 58 programs, we ensured that our program would be as rigorous or maybe more than the other accredited programs. We also have a very close pulse on industry, and I've been personally in the San Diego HIM community for 22 years, and so I've been able to understand the development of this progression for the advanced degrees, and know that these jobs were out there, and they were filling them with people from outside of the state and certainly outside of our region. And industry supported it. We have a very strong advisory board, and I sat down, I pointed to a chair, and I said, if I have an employee, what would you like them to look like? And then we developed the curriculum around that. Again, there's only one other program. Our program costs $10,500 total for the bachelor's degree, all 4 years. So our students, of course, were drawn to that just for the accessibility alone. The community colleges, particularly Mesa College, is uniquely designed to support these students. We have a wonderful support system. We had the support of our Vice Chancellor of Student Services, who supported all of the 15 pilot programs through the bachelor's degree program. We had excellent curriculum support from Dr. Shelley Hess, was here today, and then of course our administration at San Diego Mesa College was extremely supportive and ensured that our associate degree program was the foundation and stepping stone, but that these would be a higher level degree and provide wonderful opportunities for our students. The other thing we did was we developed the program to be a working professional program. So the students are only in class in the evenings, and then the rest is online. And we do that because most of our industry partners said we want them to have the education, but we really want them to have the experience as well. So out of the associate's degree program, they're able to get the entry-level or mid-level jobs, and then when they have the bachelor's degree plus the education and experience, they're able to get these high-level jobs right at the end of graduation. In fact, one of our graduates is actually interviewing, has been called for an interview to a position that's paying $140,000 a year. So they're real and they're happening, and she's also a student of color, which is wonderful, so we're very proud of her. And so we also have the cohort model, which we have in the associate's degree as well. These students all progress through all of the courses together, and what that has resulted in is in our graduates in this first year, they're very close, they keep each other sane, if you will, during that 2 years, but also they keep each other successful. And they work very closely together. They're industry partners when they're out in the field, and so they're developing those networking skills in the classroom and taking them out into the industry. You have a packet, in your packet you have our infographic sheet that was created that has all of the details of the ethnicity and age and so forth, but just a couple of highlighted pieces is that we have the majority of our students are historically underserved and underrepresented ethnic-wise. We have about 60% of our students age 30 to 50. About a third, about 40% actually are first-generation college students, and we have a great video. Actually, when Frank presented that video, I probably should have put ours in, but you can find it. It's our district video under health information, and it is great. Some of the students talk about how they would have never had this opportunity had it not been for the community colleges and San Diego Mesa College. And they're all starting, most of them are working in the field, but they're starting with very low paying jobs. They're at about $33,000 a year, which isn't a lot to live in San Diego. And so these are giving them really great opportunities to succeed in life. This is our first graduating class. They graduated in May of 2018. There are 15 of them. They had a 97% success rate, 3.76 GPA in our HIMSS classes, our upper division courses, and there were no equity gaps at all. All ethnic groups had the success rate of 84% or higher, which I think you would all agree is pretty high. So thank you for the opportunity, and very proud to offer this at our community college.
Good morning, I'm Jackie Escajeda, and I'm Dean for Curriculum and Instruction with the Academic Affairs Division at the State Chancellor's Office. The Academic Affairs Division, Academic Senate, and the bachelor's degree colleges will continue to collaborate and work closely together to strengthen each program and to ensure the success of students who enter into the programs. We continue to hold monthly steering committee meetings, meet yearly at the BDP Summit, and work groups have been established for the following areas of interest: updating the bachelor's degree handbook, looking at credit for prior learning, improving the mechanism of data collection in accordance to SB 850, looking at GE patterns, recruitment of new students, and looking at marketing. I thank you today for listening to us. This is a very important program and dear to all of our hearts.
Okay, thank you all very much. Comments from the board, I believe Member Avalos.
Yeah. So thank you very much for coming to talk to us today. Mr. Dawson, it's a pleasure to have you here as well. As a point of history, I think Tom, myself, and Jeff are probably the only ones on the board that actually approved this program back in 2014, 15. And Santa Monica College in the program was actually in question. I think the CSU questioned whether they wanted to accept it or not. And we pushed for the board to have that adopted and accepted. And to me, this is a proud moment to see this actually happening. It's probably one of the proudest moments being on this board to actually, to realize where it started to where it is now, impacting students to the way we're impacting students, to provide an opportunity that otherwise wouldn't exist, right? So I really appreciate you all being here because it just brings full circle what we've done as part of this board.
Don?
Thank you. I think I made similar comments in the past meeting about the bachelor's program. And particularly with the program at Mesa College, not that it's my alma mater 25 years ago, but can you tell me if besides the AA and the BA degree, you have credentials in the HMI program as well?
We do have, through our national association, there are credentials that the students can obtain with exams.
Meaning certificates?
Oh, I'm sorry, certificate programs?
Yeah.
We don't have one currently, but we're actually working on a coding certificate program.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
And do you envision, I hear that you're offering classes both on ground and online.
That's right.
Do you envision that the certificate program being an online purely or a combination of both still, or?
We are not sure yet. Our industry partners are very strong about soft skills, and I find that there needs to be some on-campus time for that to develop, for them to really get employed. For them to get educated online is great, but for them to get employed, having that little bit of on-campus time, I think, increases their employability.
Because in terms of connecting the dots, I think what we're proposing with the online college on the information medical technology, medical coding, I don't know if that can kind of feed into programs such as provided by Mesa College, because I think that would be a great marriage, if you will, between the online college and ascending, if you will, to the AA and bachelor's degree at the 114 campuses. Thank you.
Member Aguinaldo.
Thank you very much for sharing this information with us, and particularly for sharing the video. I think it's great to see the students really enjoying what they're learning, and as better succinctly stated by another industry, happy cows make happy cheese. So it's great to see the students enjoying. I have two questions. First is, could you describe the type of support your school gave to the students in recognition of the fact that one of the tenets of the vision for success is to pair high expectations with high support? And as a corollary to that, does that high support in other programs, non-BA related, would that lead to higher success for all of the other students? The second question is, could we address some of the concerns in the cautiously optimistic LAO report, which is less than a year old now, but I think really pointed out a lot of fundamental questions, their terms, that resulted from this pilot program in the first place?
So what specific questions with the LAO report do you have?
So their concerns included that only some of the approved programs have strong evidence for a need for bachelor's degrees. Very little student outcome data will be available by the time of the final evaluation date. And the third one is that financial data makes, the available financial data at the time made it unable to draw meaningful conclusions about instructional and student costs. And then they went through a litany of fundamental questions about the role of employers in training workers, overlap with university courses, et cetera.
Well, for the data collection, we do have a work group together to improve the mechanisms of collecting data, not only for the demographics, but also we're working closely with staff from our fiscal division on collecting the information on the fiscal activities that support the success of these programs and how much it's costing the colleges.
And the steering group is meeting regularly, and at our last convening at Jolina's college, we really focused on the whole group addressing the LAO report and specific questions. We also are in touch with our own Laura Mattoon, and so we're very much in lockstep in terms of how we're going to address the questions, as well as to provide, in some instances, a little more clarity and a bit of a corrective to some of the assumptions in the LAO report that actually aren't really in line with the programs. So we're moving in a kind of twofold direction, but it's definitely front and center in our sights, and we're working on it. Thank you.
Member Grande.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all of the baccalaureate pilot program representatives that are here in the audience. I see so many of them that came to Cypress College in July and began having the conversations about the LAO report. And I'm going to borrow from our next agenda item on the strong workforce stars and point out that every single one of our baccalaureate degrees in their infographics indicate that they are industry-driven, career-directed, faculty-led, student-centered, and data-informed. The one component part of intersegmentally engaged is where we can go next, where we begin to draw on our dual enrollment, guided pathways, and credit for prior learning and work-based experience. And I am very hopeful that we see the next rendition of baccalaureate pilot programs as we expand into the future. Mentioning the LAO's criticism of the financial data, it should be recognized that the only allocation that was provided to these pilot programs came in 2015 with a $6 million budget item for the 15 schools, and they have been doing an amazing job with just general FTS apportionment. Everything else has been generated by industry agreements and other partnerships, foundations, and otherwise. And the one question that I would have on all the infographics is the graduation rates that are provided and the calculation. It appears as though the calculation was based on number of entering students and the number of graduating students in the same year, but not matched student for student or by head count. Can you comment on the graduation rate?
I can just comment to say that there's a bit of a discrepancy in terms of what you see reported there and what the actuality is. For example, at Santa Monica College, we had a cohort of 19 students, and it's listed as 13 graduated. Actually, by June, 15 had graduated. But in our planning for it, we included the internships as needed for completion and graduation. but our internships came at the very end of the program. And so as of now, we have 18 of the 19 students who have completed since this infographic was made. So I think other colleges have similar stories to tell.
Graduation, this could also play into it. 10 colleges started in 2016, but not all 10 had graduates in 2018. So 2 colleges get taken away from that number. 1 college got added in. So there's a little bit of a difference when you look at the full number from 2016, but it should, and then some colleges reported a certain number on their infographics, which did not align with what was reported for information we had at the time when we collected it. So as we work on improving our data collection, which we have a work group for, we are talking to our MIS department to like snapshot maybe when our numbers are given. That's why we tried to say like fall of 17, fall of 16, so that we're snapshotting it at that time.
Okay, Member Rawlings?
I'm wondering, I don't see it here in the infographics, prior salary and then potential post-salary for some of the cohorts. I'm wondering if we're tracking that. Particularly, I'm asking because I'm interested in seeing, and maybe in a kind of a disaggregated way, students who might be working in the field and what the prior salary is before completing the bachelor's degree program, and maybe those students who were not in the field and entered the bachelor's degree program, and then taking a look at the economic mobility that the bachelor's degree programs that we're offering create, as opposed to maybe some of our other post-secondary partners. Because you take a look at the return on the investment for the student is massive. You go and you spend $10,000 on your bachelor's degree and you get an $80,000 a year job. That's pretty great. But if their salary was maybe $70,000 a year the year before, and now it's $80,000 a year, the economic mobility is a little bit less. But I'm sure that's probably not the case in most of these students, that the economic mobility is probably pretty big. I'd be interested in taking a look at that, and also by region and by ethnicity.
That's a valid question, and our group on the data collection, we are going to be looking at the data that you just described.
That's awesome. Great. I'll look forward to it. Thanks.
Okay, Member Costa?
I appreciate the question on the graduation rate, and I do have to say, regardless of the methodology, I see a pretty wide variance between some of the programs, with some having great success in the 97th percentile, others in the 40th percentile. And so I'm curious, system-wide, what, if any, support are we providing those programs that are struggling with their graduation rates? And then secondarily, and it might be a question better for Vice Chancellor Mattoon, I'm wondering what our plans are to either make the pilot permanent or expand our offerings.
I'll be happy to chime in. Obviously, we are currently focused on the governor signing the existing bill that's on his desk that would allow extension of, will allow students to continue enrolling beyond the initial sunset. I think there's some fundamental questions that we need to raise about expanding, and I think primarily the issue of cost is my main concern. If we think about the experience we have with the CSU struggles mightily to offer bachelor degrees at the rate that it charges. That is something we need to pay fundamental attention to. While it is amazing that we can offer a bachelor's degree at $10,500, I don't see how financially we could sustain that during a recession. The other question is, how many resources does that cause us to take away from students in the pipeline, in the usual pipeline? So I think there's some fundamental questions we need to ask about the financial structure. I don't find questions about the workforce need. I think that is something we need to respond to, but I would caution us to, I mean, if you think about the challenge we have with offering associate degrees, I think by and large we can all say that the system isn't funded well enough to offer associate degrees at scale. I wouldn't want us to find ourselves going into the same trap. Just because, the CSU is challenged with the amount of funding it has. If we try to scale at this rate, we're going to find very similar challenges. So I think that is a fundamental part of the legislation that we're going to need to change. I believe that we should be asking the legislature to allow us to charge the cost of education. There is no way that $10,500 is the cost of education. I don't care what math you use. So we need to be able to charge the appropriate amount to give students not only the appropriate education and support in a way that does not take away from other students at a community college, but also allows us to sustain it during a recession. So I think those are the questions that we're asking, and I think with the next governor, we will certainly be engaging that team and trying to find a nexus to find the right time to expand the program. But if we expand it, we need to get much more authority for our campuses. I think the pilot is fine. There are reasons why we needed to do it this way. But if we're going to scale this, we cannot scale this at the amount that we charge.
Member Shaw?
Okay, I'm just curious a bit about, I did sort of my own quick analysis of the, well, first of all, let me just say, I think it's an extraordinary program. We want to thank everybody involved. And Board Member Avalos, I was here, I think I was here also, and so was Board Member Perry. You weren't alone. But in looking at sort of the numbers, it looks to me, and it might be because of the regions, but out of the 15 selected selected entities, about 40% of them don't have any African American participation. So I just want to know, you know, and again, it might be because of the region. The places that had the best enrollment was Shasta College, San Diego, Santa Monica, and Antelope. But there's some others that had 0 or 1%. So I just hope that we can, if you can look to us or any other groups to try to help bolster that African American participation in the entire program.
That's a really good point. And yes, it is regional. I think there is why that data looks that way. But we are looking, one of the work groups is on recruitment and outreach. So, and thank you. We will look at to you guys and other programs to help us recruit that population.
Thank you.
For Haynes?
So I too want to congratulate all 15 of the colleges that participated in this pilot. I want to give a shout out to Santa Monica because I went there and my granddaughter just graduated and is transferring to Irvine. So I was at the graduation and saw the 19 bachelor degree candidates and was very pleased to see them walk across the stage. So there, some things have. I truly liked the infographic. I want to say that from the beginning because it allowed me to look at ethnic breakdown. It allowed me to look at age and gender. It allowed me to, in some cases, look at the cost comparisons, which was helpful. And there, in San Diego Mesa, I really appreciated that you had done the research on what multiple positions that degree would offer in your area. And I'm hoping that if that's possible in some of the other college campuses, that's helpful to know, because what it means is that student has an opportunity to go a number of places or to move a number of places relative to that particular degree. And then I want to make note of Shasta College, which did 100% online. And so, Member Shaw, 25% of those folks were African American.
Yeah, I just said that.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I was not listening then. That one, and while the other numbers were different in terms of that particular population. But also what was notable is in that particular situation, the majority of those who participated were older students. So I think that keeping and then underlining and helping understand the relationship between younger students who are coming into the program versus older students. One of my questions would be asking the support that surrounds them. Does that help with the success rate, or are some students excelling better than others, and what are the reasons that surround that piece? And I could not necessarily tease that out given the presentation of the information. But overall, just very, very pleased with the work that's being done. So thank you so much for your efforts.
Aguinaldo?
I think my original question paired well with Member Haynes' question about pairing high expectations with high support. And I think Mr. Dawson was just about to answer that. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the support that you've given to this program and to understand if that level of support also exists for all of your other programs as well.
Thank you. We were really aided by the fact that we had in place already a robust associate's degree in graphic design. And the students who have performed best in the program are because of that, because they've come out of our undergraduate program, lower division courses. Also, we have had success for the last 6 years with another program we have that's a cohort model. So understanding the advantages of a cohort, how some of the stronger students are able to pull some of the other weaker students along. The fact that beyond just work that's done in the classroom, the cohorts become sort of a family as well, and they participate in other activities outside of the academic side of it. And in interaction design, that's really critical and really, really important. And so I think cohorts are very, very, very important. As far as other support, the whole idea of outreach, when you talk of equity and inclusion, it's really put a lot more pressure on us at Santa Monica College to do a better job as far as outreach is concerned into other communities. For us, more than 85% of our students do not come from Santa Monica. They come from Los Angeles, and that's where the diverse population is. And also, I think it's important that when we look at diversity, we're not just talking about gender and about race. Socioeconomic diversity is really critical, and it's one of the things that industry has really responded to as far as our students are concerned and our population. The diversity of thought based on the diversity of experience has really been critical, and I think that's why industry has really gravitated to what we're doing at Santa Monica with this particular program, and the reason that our students are getting employed and getting into jobs.
I can just add to that. Our program similarly has a associate degree program cohort base that's already in place and all the foundations are there. And I think back to your point in terms of the cost, that was one of the reasons on application that we were able to maintain the cost and to keep the cost very low because the foundation was there. The structure was there, the labs were there, the same physical and faculty elements were in both programs, and we were able to very seamlessly transition to add these extra students. And there'll be extra students completing that program, and with the new fiscal model, I know that that's a critical piece is making sure that they're completing and we're issuing graduation, diplomas. And our support services, back to your question, are extremely strong in all of our for all of our programs in our college. And so again, adding 15 or 30 more students to those allied health counselors that we have that are specific was very seamless. And the support that they get in the first year is the same as the support that they get in the last year. And all through the time that they're here, they feel supported. They're able to access all of the resources that they need. We increased our library resources, which I'm sure you were able to do as well with that additional funding, and we're sort of set to go. So it's really been, I think from that perspective, very easy to incorporate the additional degree.
We also got 2 new full-time faculty members in the graphic design department because of the degree.
Okay, well, we have some public comments. I want to thank the panel, Vice Chancellor Perez, Mr. Dawson, Ms. Renda, and Dean Izquierda. And we want to bring up some public commenters now.
So we have 3 speaker cards. As a reminder, each speaker has 3 minutes. The first speaker is Michelle Paralizzi. And then we have Carmen Donis.
Hello, Chancellor Oakley and President Epstein and Vice President Haynes and the whole board. My name is Michelle Paralizzi. My program is in occupational studies. So just a couple comments that I would want to make is our outside accrediting agency that accredits all occupational therapy education is moving the therapist to the doctorate level and is in the process of moving the associates for the OTA to the bachelor's. And they've already written standards for that. So my industry is moving that way. And so this allows our current students to keep pace with where we're going. The other thing I wanted to say about this is, of course, everybody talked about people having access. So we also do a cohort model. We have our program is online, hybrid, and our students only have to come to campus Wednesday evenings and Saturdays, which works really well for the working adult. Our field, OT, is just worries about diversity all the time because we're female dominated and we have lacked any people of color in that field. The diversity that we have at our college is not high for African Americans, but we have a good diversity. We only have 11% that are Caucasian, so a lot of Hispanics, which reflects the community that we live in. And we're also meeting that need of people who are first-time college graduates. And I was so excited to start this program, but the energy of my students constantly excites me more because I hear from them, I could have never done this. I could have never afforded to do this. I could have never fit this into my work schedule. This is a dream. My parents are so proud that I'll have this bachelor's degree. So in addition to the workforce, there's just all the good feelings that come from providing an education to people who otherwise would not get it.
Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak today. My name is Carmen Dones. I'm a dean at West Los Angeles College over the dental hygiene program. And we had 29 students graduate from the program this year. And we also started a dental assisting program because, and that's an AS program, and that's feeding into our bachelor program. And our demographics for that program are predominantly Hispanic and African American, which is great. So we've already transferred in, I think, 4 or 5 students, and it's growing. It's new, so it's growing. And the other thing I wanted to say was with dental hygiene, it's the degree of responsibility is growing for those students. So they have to give anesthesia, they have to do nitrous sedation, and more recently, they're having to do therapeutic fillings for patients who don't have access to dental offices. So we're providing our students with that education, and but the degree level hasn't changed. So they're expected to do more with in that same amount of time, but yet we're keeping them at an AS level. And the dental assistants are also at that same level, but they're not required to take on those responsibilities. So I have to say, with this graduating class, UCLA called us immediately and hired 70% of the class that graduated to do research, and which is great for these students, and they'll be making anywhere from $40 to $45 an hour, and they're coming from low-income families, so this is amazing for them. And I wanted to touch on the point that the LAO stated about us taking a program from an AS level and eliminating that and making it a bachelor program. And it's because the students were already taking 4 years, because they have to come in with at least 2 years of prerequisites to the program, and that's because we're accredited by the Commission on Dental Accreditation. And so they were coming in with an associate degree and then getting a second associate degree by the time they completed. So it's really, if they went to the universities, they're private, that offer dental hygiene, they would be paying anywhere from $70,000 to $175,000 or $150,000. And so they don't have access. These are students who we are providing that access for.
30 seconds.
So I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I would really like to see us expand the opportunities of these bachelor programs and take this off of the pilot mode. Thank you.
Kevin, Trutner?
Thank you. My name is Dr. Kevin Trutna. I'm the superintendent president of Feather River College up in Quincy, California. And thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to take just a few moments to say, what does this mean to our community? What does this mean to the industry? What does this mean for our students? We have the bachelor's in equine and ranch management. The LAO says you do not need a bachelor's degree to work in the agricultural industry. They are correct, but we are not training students to work at that level. We are training them to work at this level. So that's a misnomer from the LAO report. This community, the Feather River College community, Northeastern California, Plumas County, I got high-fived in the post office when it was announced that we had this degree. There was a standing ovation when I walked in the bank. This is a sense of pride for Northeastern California and the region. 30% of our faculty teach somewhat in the bachelor's degree program. They teach environmental studies, they teach history of the West, they teach technical writing. 30% of our faculty touch this degree some way, somehow. We have a regional reputation on the West Coast as the horse school, and this is a natural expansion. We are doing this within our current existing budget. Somebody asked about expanding the program. We would love to expand to another program, and we are doing this within the existing budget that is allotted. We're not asking for any more money. This is a career ladder based upon our highly successful associate degree. Our bachelor's in equine has accounting. Chancellor Eloy would like that. We require 2 semesters of accounting, entrepreneurship, lots of business courses, chemistry, statistics, environmental, governmental regulations, water rights. We require all of those before you enter the program and at the higher level. As we speak this semester, Feather River College will be implanting embryos into cattle to try to do beef composition. Not just artificial insemination, they will be implanting embryos. I don't know if Cal States do that. This is a technical degree for somebody who works in the field. We coordinated with Cal Poly, Chico State, UC Davis, and Fresno State, and employers like Harris Ranch to come up with a degree. UC Davis told us that 92% of their agriculture students want to enter veterinary school. Less than 40% will ever apply to veterinary school. Those other students, their dean said, are perfect for your degree. What does this mean for our students? We graduated 16 students. They're working in 4 different states all over the West. The LAO asked our students, how many of you would not be in college without the Feather River bachelor's degree? 15 out of the 16 raised their hand and said, I would not be getting a bachelor's degree if it wasn't for this. Half of our students get their prerequisites, their freshman, sophomore at a different college, and 34% of our graduates are the first generation. If you're a fan of Dave Ramsey, he would say we are changing family trees. We want the governor to sign SB 1406. We want to get rid of the pilot status, and I would really appreciate and would ask that the vision for success include the further promulgation of the bachelor's degree. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Trutna, for coming all the way down from beautiful Feather River.
Yeah.
I'd ask you to meet Feather River. We don't have a room this big.
Okay. So that's it. I think it may be time for a break. Let's come back at 11:05.